Why do some people bounce back from criticism like rubber balls, while others crumble like cookies? The answer lies in understanding something most people confuse: self-worth and self-esteem. These are not the same thing, and mixing them up might be costing you your peace of mind. Let me ask you something honest. Have you ever felt amazing after receiving praise at work, only to feel terrible 2 days later when someone criticized your idea? That emotional roller coaster is not a personality flaw. It is a sign that you are relying too heavily on self-esteem and not enough on self-worth. Here is the thing most people never learn. Self-esteem is like the weather, constantly changing based on external conditions. Self-worth, however, is like the ground beneath your feet, solid and unchanging regardless of the storm above. Understanding this distinction is not just helpful, it is transformative. Self-esteem lives in the moment. It responds to what happens around you, how people react to you, and whether you succeed or fail at tasks. Think about it. When your boss compliments your presentation, your self-esteem shoots up. When you post a photo online and it gets fewer likes than expected, your self-esteem takes a hit. When you compare yourself to someone more successful, your self-esteem drops. This is normal, but it is also exhausting. Self-esteem is tied to 7 major triggers: your achievements and how well you perform, the feedback you receive from others, including praise or criticism, your career status and income level, your personal beliefs and values comparisons you make with other people, the quality of your relationships, and your physical appearance. Every single one of these factors changes frequently, and many are completely outside your control. Now, self-worth operates on a completely different level. It is rooted in core beliefs about whether you are fundamentally worthy, good enough, or deserving of love and respect. These beliefs formed early in your life, often in childhood, and they sit deep in your subconscious. Unlike self-esteem, which bounces around like a ping-pong ball, self-worth remains relatively stable. A compliment from your boss might boost your self-esteem, but it will not fundamentally change your sense of worth if you have deep-seated beliefs that you are unworthy. Similarly, criticism might stain your self-esteem temporarily, but if you have strong self-worth, you will recover quickly, because you know your value does not depend on that one person's opinion. This is why some people seem unshakable, while others fall apart at the smallest setback. The difference is not personality, it is the foundation they are standing on. But here is the critical question. What happens when you build your entire emotional stability on self-esteem without having self-worth as a backup system? Can you actually function, or does everything start falling apart? What happens when you lack that backup system? The short answer is chaos. Without self-worth anchoring you, every fluctuation in self-esteem becomes a potential crisis. Imagine building a house on sand instead of concrete. Every small tremor causes cracks, and eventually, the whole structure becomes unstable. This is exactly what happens to people who rely solely on self-esteem for their emotional well-being. When your self-esteem takes a hit, and it will because life guarantees challenges, you experience a cascade of negative effects. You become moody, swinging between anxiety, depression, and irritability without warning. You get defensive, blaming others for problems, or projecting your anger onto innocent bystanders. You reach for unhealthy coping mechanisms like alcohol, excessive social media scrolling, or other distractions to numb the discomfort. Your motivation evaporates, making it nearly impossible to focus on important tasks. You feel an urgent, almost desperate need to do something, anything, to get validation and feel better again. You might even abandon meaningful projects if they do not provide immediate emotional rewards. Your impulse control weakens, making you more likely to say or do things you later regret. This is not weakness. This is what happens when your emotional foundation is fragile. Why is self-esteem so fragile compared to self-worth? Because self-esteem is a product of your critical mind, that voice in your head that constantly evaluates, judges, and compares. This part of your brain is excellent at solving problems, but it is terrible at providing emotional stability. Your critical mind is always searching for new information to assess your value. Are you better or worse than that person? Did you meet expectations? Are you attractive enough, successful enough, smart enough? The answers change depending on who you are with, where you are, and what you are doing. Your self-esteem around your fitness-obsessed friends might be low, but around your less active colleagues, it might be high. Same person, different context, completely different self-esteem level. This is exhausting because you are constantly recalculating your worth based on shifting variables. Self-worth uses that same critical mind, but in a fundamentally different way. Instead of recalculating based on circumstances, self-worth uses the critic to reinforce existing beliefs. If you have healthy self-worth, your inner critic helps you stay grounded in your own value. But if you have low self-worth, here is where things get dangerous. Your critical mind becomes a weapon against yourself. You start engaging in what psychologists call confirmation bias. You selectively focus on every failure, every shortcoming, every mistake, while completely discounting your successes and strengths. Someone compliments you, and you think they are just being nice. You succeed at something, and you attribute it to luck. You fail at something, and you see it as proof of your unworthiness. This creates a vicious cycle where low self-worth feeds itself, becoming stronger and more entrenched over time. So if self-worth is so important and self-esteem is so unreliable, where exactly do you find self-worth? And more importantly, can you actually build it if you do not already have it? Here is the beautiful truth that changes everything. Self-worth does not need to be found or built because it already exists within you. Unlike self-esteem, which you earn through achievements and external validation, self-worth is inherent. You were born with it. The problem is not that you lack self-worth. It is that layers of negative experiences, harsh criticism, and societal conditioning have buried it. Your job is not to create self-worth, but to uncover it, to clear away the debris that is hiding it. This is a radically different approach from trying to boost your self-esteem, and it requires different tools. Self-worth has specific characteristics that make it fundamentally different from self-esteem. First, it is unconditional. You do not have to earn it, maintain it, or prove it. Second, it does not rely on comparisons to remain high. You can acknowledge that someone is more skilled than you in a particular area without feeling less worthy as a person. Third, it has no contingencies you must meet. Your worth does not increase when you succeed or decrease when you fail. Fourth, it comes from developing a deep, healthy, trusting relationship with yourself. This means knowing yourself honestly, accepting yourself fully, and treating yourself with compassion. Fifth, it strengthens when you show your true self to the world instead of hiding behind masks and personas. Authenticity feeds self-worth, while pretense depletes it. So how do you cultivate self-worth? The two most powerful tools are mindfulness and self-compassion. Mindfulness helps you observe your thoughts without immediately believing them. When your critical mind says, "You are not good enough," mindfulness allows you to notice that thought. Recognize it as just a thought rather than truth, and let it pass without attaching to it. Self-compassion means treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer a good friend who is struggling. When you make a mistake, instead of attacking yourself, you acknowledge the pain, recognize the imperfection is part of being human, and respond with understanding rather than judgment. These practices might sound simple, but they are profoundly powerful because they address self-worth at its core level rather than just temporarily boosting self-esteem. Understanding the difference between self-worth and self-esteem gives you something invaluable: emotional stability that does not depend on circumstances. When you build self-worth, you create an internal foundation that remains solid even when external conditions change. You can still enjoy the highs of self-esteem when things go well, but you will not be destroyed by the lows when things go badly. This is not about becoming emotionless or indifferent. It is about becoming unshakable in your sense of value as a person. You deserve this kind of peace, not because you have earned it through achievements, but simply because you exist. If this resonated with you, and you want more content that helps you understand yourself better and build genuine emotional strength, consider subscribing. We are building a community of people who are done with superficial fixes and ready for real transformation. Join us and let us grow together.